So either this is the biggest misdirect I can think of in this anime year, or that is without a doubt Suletta's mother, right? I mean, it just very much feels like from the arm to the connection to her Gundam, everything about her, voice actor, physical look, it just very much screams, there's Mama. And I think it's really interesting to see just how casually she's blended into this environment, but you can very much tell she's waiting it out and she's gonna make sure shit hits the fan. And I'm very interested to see where this whole story's going, because what episode 2 does a really great job at is really separating itself from the Gundam that I've seen in terms of how they're handling the kind of political climate. And it's interesting to see the difference of how, like, people from space versus Earth and just the way they're handling the discrimination, but it kind of being reverse of what you're used to, or at the very least what I'm used to seeing in Gundam anyway. And the fact of the matter is, like, you still have the typical, like, there's definitely that discrimination, the whole lunchroom scene as an example, right? But to see it flipped around from what I'm used to seeing was really interesting. But the thing about Gundam is it's always been a very political heavy series. But this time, it's a lot more corporate, right? The way they're going about the chain of command here in terms of, well, okay, we end last week, right? With the whole, well, the son of a very powerful figure ended up defeated, so therefore the transferring of the title of who gets to marry, it's clearly the man in charge's daughter here, Miorine. It's interesting to see how the rules that were established to make a certain thing happen then get backtracked so that the chain of command can kind of keep going with what they need. And to see how, you have someone like Miorine whose entire purpose from what we know of is to just go to Earth. And the fact of the matter is, even when she comes barging into a room saying, you're a piece of shit father, he doesn't look at her as a daughter, he looks at her as a tool to use and basically abuse for his political gain. And it's crazy to see, man, because literally, like, this piece of shit would have died last week had that duel not happened the way it did. And just the whole connection to what happened in the prologue, like the fact that someone like Suletta, like the person who caused so much hell, she indirectly ended up saving because of that whole duel. And it's crazy to see the direction they're going because it really has a really solid pace going. Because I think everyone expected the whole concept of, is she an illegal Gundam sort of a thing, would pop up eventually, but I don't think, I was expecting anyway, it to pop up so soon. But the fact that they're not beating around the bush, they're saying, this shit ain't right, we immediately investigated, we immediately said this is an illegal model, you shouldn't have this, what's going on, we're expelling this girl, we're going to send her back to where she came from, and we're going to dispose of this unit, right? The prologue very much established what this whole concept is to the grand scheme of things for what they're viewing things as. And it's interesting to see how we're going back to the duel. And while I do think she'll ultimately end up winning just based on the skills clearly there, it's interesting to see just how hostile things are, but how they're not dragging plot points out, but rather quickly moving to the next one in a believable way. Like if this is a real government or a real hierarchy that has a lot of political bigwigs and, who's gonna backstab who at any particular moment, we don't like certain groups of people or races and stuff, like the fact that things are moving in a normal pace that they should, rather than saying, Sun got defeated here by Gundam that we don't recognize, that moved in ways that we didn't recognize, or we should recognize because it's basically illegal from their point of view. Instead, we're just gonna let it kind of say, you know what, bygones be bygones, the rules are the rules. The people who put those rules in place generally don't follow the rules when it doesn't benefit them. So the fact that they're trying to backpedal and then immediately they call it as being an illegal alien, all things considered, I think it's great to see how this one's really propelling, and I love the dynamic of the different characters. Like, we got a bit more in terms of, like, the third-party students, not just the main duo who are engaged but not engaged, but probably will be engaged again by the end of this duel and the fight and everything like that. We got a good sense of just who they are as people, I felt like. One dude who's very much going to be making Suletta's heart blush, probably just as much as Miorine will. Give him the, I'm interested in you, and feeding her a nice meal as everyone else basically discarded her, to just the whole concept of someone who recognizes the type of discrimination going on and just moves away because she knows there's nothing she can do, but, everyone else is like, why should we, sort of a thing. It's crazy to see the way they're going about this, and I really find like the pace is perfect for what they're trying to tell right now. There's obviously questions you can raise about where the main story will go, the type of sabotage, revenge that could pop up, especially with Suletta's mother and Suletta being involved in everything like that, but it's great to see what they're doing, and both the opening and endings, perfect. I absolutely love them. I'd probably actually say I like the ending the most, but that's not to say the opening was bad in any way. I think it's a banger. I love the visuals. I love the visuals on both sides. I like how they're both visually distinct and match what they need to do for both an opening and an ending. The ending visuals, man, they're perfect for it, and just like you can tell like where they're building up with these characters, but also the type of heartbreak that Gundam's known for, especially with couples, right? One thing I really like though about Suletta is the way her voice actress presents her voice, right? It's not even just like it's a timid girl who's shy, like she constantly stutters, and I love the fact that she feels out of place and she feels nervous. Like you don't get that attention to detail too often in characters who are supposed to not feel comfortable, and the fact that, you know, people were calling her like a country bumpkin in the previous episode, right? She feels completely out of place, and from the school's point of view, she's a cheater, and that's why, you know, the person who never gets defeated was defeated, and that's why, you know, no one really bats an eye after they announce those types of results. But if it happens a second time, it'll be very interesting to see what will actually occur going forward, but I'm excited to see what they're going to pull. I think animation's still holding up. Obviously not an action-packed episode, but there's a lot of great facial expressions, a lot of great movements I found, just to really get you a sense of how characters are feeling, not even just with what they're saying. But Miorine, as an example, is just a bundle of negative energy from her like sitting and just playing her game, saying die, 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 or don't touch my tomatoes or you will die sort of a thing. I think it's going to be fun to see how she'll probably start opening up the more she spends time with Suletta. But most importantly, I'm interested to see because, you know, she basically arranged to be taken to Earth. And then she got backtracked because she felt guilty. And this person who was going to save her basically was confirmed like, hey, you know, it's always good to have someone in your pocket who needs to return a favor as powerful and in as high of a position as her. So there's a lot of great subtle setup clues, things that will come back to either bite characters in the ass or it just will be an interesting plot point. But as it stands, I'm loving this show the more I watch, and all I can say after leaving, now the third episode that I've watched of this project, yes, the prologue is a separate entity than just the first two episodes here, but still, this show's awesome. I love it. It's fresh, it's exciting, but it still feels Gundam through and through, and the after the credits scene definitely has me excited to see where that's going to go, and the type of carnage that could occur going forward in the future for this show. I think one of the good things about a show like this is that I really don't have a specific character that I would rank above the other right now in terms of the main duo. I actually equally like Miorine and Suletta just as much as the other, and I think they both serve an interesting purpose for what this type of story is going to be telling, both with the prologue and the type of pain that Suletta has in her, and, you know, the current attitude she has as a very shy, timid girl, the hostility and rage, but also just wanting to be left alone to tend to her vegetables, such as Miorine, and the numerous side characters who have already left a positive enough impression that I'm excited to see more of them, even if they didn't really stand out in the episode, just more so of an introduction sort of a thing. But either way, the show isn't letting up, I find. I really feel like it is getting better, and I'm really excited for this one. Thoughts and feelings and theories, if you got any, on where everything could go from here, do let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. Until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.